Andrew Lester is the 84-year-old who has now been identified as the one who shot Ralph Yarl just a short time ago. Now, thankfully, the update is that he has been charged with first-degree assault and armed criminal action in the shooting of Ralph Yarl. You can see Andrew Lester here in this shot. That's the individual who set all of this off, and of course, Ralph Yarl will remind you that his family has a GoFundMe for both the legal effort as well as the medical expenses. If you're not familiar with the story, he's a 16-year-old high schooler, had just been trying to pick his brothers up when he went to the wrong address and rang the doorbell twice. And that was all it took for Andrew Lester to decide that he was going to execute this young boy. Now, here's how he tells it. He says that he was in his bed when he heard his doorbell ring and grabbed a handgun before answering, adding that he was, quote, scared to death by Yarl's size. He stated he believed someone was attempting to break into the house and shot twice through an exterior storm door within a few seconds of opening the main door. Yarl was shot twice, struck in the left forehead and right arm. And I don't believe literally anything that this insane, likely racist old man says. The idea that you were just scared of the size of a black teenager is, look, whether it's just an excuse or a truth, racists they do overestimate the age and size of people who aren't white. That we know is the way that racists work implicitly. You believe that he was trying to break into the house? I'm not a burglar or anything, but I don't think that they teach you to ring the doorbell multiple times if you're trying to break in. That usually will alert people to your presence. So no, I don't believe literally any of this. It's good news that he's been charged. We'll see what happens. The other bit of good news, and this is honestly a miracle, but family member of Ralph Yarl said that after 3 nights in the hospital, he's now been brought home and continues to improve. I am just going to assume that he should be home after just 3 days. It's entirely possible that our healthcare system is so devastatingly broken that you only get 3 nights to recover in the hospital. But regardless, the fact that he is able to go home is a miracle after being shot twice, including in the head. And so, Mondale, what do you think about this tragic situation?
I think, and I appreciate you pointing out the fact that this man's statement should hold no water, no ground, because that second shot was not an immediate shot. It was actually after he shot this young man in the head, he then shot him. He said to him, "Don't come around here," and then shot him the second time. And if this kid wouldn't have put his hand up, that bullet wouldn't have been in his hand or been through his heart, and he probably wouldn't have lived. So we also need to tell the part that this kid not only was shot by this man, America sold this kid out when he got up and ran to 2 neighbors' house and they turned him away. And it wasn't until he got to the 3rd neighbor who said, "Get on the ground," made this kid lay on the ground with a gun pointed at him, telling him to raise his hands, and then he called the police. So this kid has been shot, blood leaking out of his hand and head, has been forced to lay on the ground again with a gun pointed at him by a neighbor who is also afraid, like you said, of the big black man who was 16-year-old honor student, bandmate. And it's absolutely disgusting that we find ourselves in this place in America where people with guns can just pretend to be afraid and say anything. This is the problem with the castle doctrine and also stand your ground. You could just say, "I was afraid," or "This person was on my property," and you can just start shooting at people as if they're hunting.
Yeah, I think that like there's no, to me at least, I'm only speaking for myself, the idea that your emotional state should determine whether something is legal or not, I think is insane. But even if you believe that there was a context where your fear justifies whatever violence you want, America doesn't get to have that. Not America, where people are trained from birth to be utterly terrified of literally everyone, but especially certain groups constantly. No, you don't get that as an excuse. We'll see what ends up turning up in this. I'm glad, thankfully, that maybe they never were going to do the charges, and it was just the protest that sprang up that caused them to. But either way, that's, I guess, the way that America works. There are charges now. We'll see what ends up happening, and just happy that Ralph somehow survived this terrible violence. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.